Welcome to Inside the Leader's Mind, where what's in the way becomes the way. I'm your host, David Suson. I'm so excited for my guest today, Bill Kasko. He serves as president and CEO of Frontline Source Group, a nationally recognized staffing and recruiting firm with over 21 years of industry leadership. And under his guidance, Frontline Source Group has become an award-winning organization specializing in temporary, temp to hire, and direct hire staffing solutions across multiple industries, expanding its footprint nationwide while maintaining a commitment to excellence through personalized service and innovative recruiting strategies. I want to welcome you to the show. Bill, thanks for being here.
Wow. Appreciate it, David. That's very kind, and appreciate being here. And you listen to intros like that, and it just makes you kind of humble here to sit and go, man, that's kind of awfully nice of you. So thank you.
Yeah, but there's even more to the story because
yeah.
tell everyone where you're located.
I am in Dallas, Texas.
And in Dallas, you are, tell us a little bit about some of the awards that your firm has won. Go ahead, you got to brag a little bit.
Geez, I think the best place to work.
How many years?
A lot. That we stopped doing it, in fact, because I felt guilty. We had won it so many times. Funny story with that. The first time we ever did it, there was and I can't remember the name of the company. I got to go back probably it's probably 2005, 2006. And this company won the award, and I was reading about it in the Business Journal, and I told our VP of HR, I go, next year we're going to win this award. And she's like, what is this award? And I go, I don't know, but look at this person's title. And the article was interviewing their VP of HR, and her title was the Queen of Fun and Laughter. And I said, if we win, we are renaming your title, and that's what it's going to be. And she said, absolutely not. I'm not getting a new title like that. But we did end up winning. We beat the Ritz-Carlton that year. But yeah, we've done it was huge. It was
to beat the Ritz. That's a big deal.
It was. And back then they also gave away a Stetson hat. And so I have this beautiful white felt gorgeous Stetson hat.
You're supposed to wear that.
I could put it on.
You didn't get my memo?
Here. Yeah, no, I didn't get that.
Dang it. All
No,
right.
we have been very blessed. We have had the best place to work. We have had all types of Inc. 500s and the Dallas 100 for rapid growth. The Dallas Morning News, I was awarded the Small Business CEO of the Year a few years ago. But it's wonderful, and it is very humble. But I'll tell you, it's just about the people, and it's not about me. And at the end of the day, this will be our 22nd year in an industry we sell people, which is even more mind-boggling. And so it's just been what a challenge over the last 22 years and things we've been faced with. But it's having those great people around you that make
you've done it. Okay,
great.
So this is a great jumping off point. So what is the secret? What is the secret of having great people?
Yeah. So when I started the company, I just had this belief that number one, you surround yourself with people that are better than you, right? That's the first thing. You've got to find people that are better. But I'm in an industry of selling people. So think about that. How do I find people that are going to be better than me and we're going to sell people? But also, it's the question, especially when you're starting a business, do you bring someone in with experience or without? Do you bring them in with industry experience or without? Do you stumble and fall with them or without? And so I think part of that in the beginning was understanding that you have to have this group around you that you have skills that you are not as great at, and you figure out how to best utilize them. And I'll give you a couple examples. I hired someone one time as a salesperson. She was right out of college, and this was our first year. Right out of college, had gone to SMU, was going to be a salesperson. Come in, I thought, man, she is smart. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, you're analytical. You are so smart. You're going to do fantastic. And she, 3 months into it, failed miserably. It was devastating. And I said, she was crushed. And we all sat in this room and did this little meeting. And I said, you know what? Maybe that wasn't for you. And we backed it up and we tried something different. I said, maybe you need to be a recruiter. And so I said, let's back it up. Let's try it different. Let's go this route. And trained her as a recruiter. She started down that path and excelled and was wonderful. And I said, what you don't understand is that a great salesperson has to know how to recruit, because that's part of this. And so this was really my fault for probably not putting you in the right place in the beginning. 20 years later, she's our COO. And so,
Oh my gosh.
I think that, yeah,
Oh
she
my
hates,
God.
by the way, she hates it when I tell that story. But it's true. And so you identify what someone's really good at. And I think a lot of times companies are too quick just to cut people instead of identifying where someone excels and utilizing that skill and that talent. And that's what we did. We would hire and we would figure it out. And if it didn't work, we would try to move over and do something different. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It all depends on the person.
So what was it about her? And I know she hates it when you talk about her,
Yeah. Oh, she's
but
really going to be
but
mad now.
but in most organizations, just like you said, that was going through my mind, right? So, slow to hire, quick to fire,
Yep.
and many people just go, well, she can't perform, she's out of here. What was it in her that, or in you, maybe it's in you, that you didn't just get rid of her and that you took the chance and said, all right, let's move you over?
Yeah. I think it was the analytical part of her and the way that you could tell when she would phrase a statement or when she would analyze a question to give you that answer back. You could see the wheels were moving, right? And it was very on point of how their response was going to be. And so you knew there was something there. It just was going to take time. Look, it was her first job out of college, hadn't had anything before, had no experience in this industry, and now all of a sudden you're thrown into a whole new industry and you don't know anything about. You haven't really had formal training on doing any of this stuff. It was going to take some time, and you were willing to learn. I mean, that's really the key. Are they a sponge? Are they open to ideas, to criticism? Are they open to learning in a way feed them to the fire real quick, but also just thinking about things, trying to be a step ahead, trying to anticipate. There was something there that I knew. There's another part that I always bring up, because I also like to say with a lot of love that she's this big pain in my rear end, because she will argue things with me till I'm like, I give, right? I can't do it anymore. Uh, and that's what I kind of enjoyed, was that the fact that this was someone who would look at things differently and was always looking from a different point of view. And so many times when you're either an entrepreneur or you're in business or whatever you may be doing, we just have this tunnel vision and we don't look and spread it out a little bit and look further. We get very focused on one thing and we don't take a different perspective. She's helped me over 20 years to look at things different. But also, and again, she'll be mad. I mean, when it comes to decisions, sometimes, you know, it's like you got a black thing to pick from and a white thing. Which one do you want? And it's like, I'd like orange. And you go, that wasn't an option, right? And so, you look back and you go, yeah, that was a good hire. I have this philosophy that all hires are good hires. They just sometimes go bad. Because if you make a commitment to hire someone, there's something you saw in them. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes that person that's been showing up to the interviews isn't the same person that shows up on day one. It happens. It happens more than people realize. And sometimes you have companies and people and individuals that regret making that offer, and then they backpedal. They're like, oof, I shouldn't have done this. This isn't right. This isn't, there's something doesn't feel right. And that's the difficult part when you're in hiring, and you're hiring truly on, the person, a business, its culture. And I think what we've been through in 22 years of the way we've changed the hiring process and the way that we
Oh, yeah.
just communicate between all of us. I mean, it's so much different than it was before, that we now look at things so much different. And if you're a company, you need to hire 100 people the next day and you're hiring bodies. Well, it's not so easy to hire bodies anymore. I mean, that's not kind of the way it's done. And so it's all just changed, every piece. But for me, and to build the company, it was hiring in small bits and pieces and growth as we went forward, to find people that would complement me and my deficit in a way that they could do better than I would be doing.
I'm curious, and I want to talk your business first, and then I want to talk client business.
Yeah.
Same question. Do you tend to hire based on skill or based on talent?
Yeah.
Meaning, for those that are listening, skill is you read a resume and you go, it checks off, it checks the box, and you hire because it's like, okay, they've done X, they've made X, they blah blah blah, and then talent is resume's there, but it's really it's not the best resume, but you spot talent. It's, you know what it is. If you're a football fan, it's Bill Belichick hiring Tom Brady.
Yeah.
It's seeing something in this individual and then building and developing. So, what is your, and there's not a right or wrong, so I don't care what you
No.
say, but I'm just curious because this is what you do. In your own world, what do you tend to hire more for?
I'm gonna tell you that's a really, really great question, because there's a huge difference between the way that I hire and a client hires, and I'm really glad you brought that up. The way that I hire with a resume, I don't look at a resume. The only time I look at a resume is I look at their name. Now I may skim down a little bit, but I don't look at that. We're in the people business, so my hiring is about how we communicate. And so what's on a flat piece of paper doesn't tell me anything about that. I don't care where they've been. Doesn't matter to me. In fact, what they did in the past, it's really irrelevant at the end of the day. How are you going to interact with me? How are you going to interact with people that are looking for making your career change? How are you going to interact with the employer looking to hire? I have one question that I ask, and I've done this for years and years and years. And my question, and I'll share it, and it's not a proprietary thing, so it's nothing, and it's not scary, creepy. I don't think maybe it is, but I ask people when we sit down and give me the little overview. My first question to ask is, "Tell me about your parents." And I've had people who have been upset that I've asked that. I've had people cry. I've had all different types of things happen, and it's really interesting because it tells me everything I need to know. And when I brought this up years ago, someone said, "Well, what are you going to do that when someone comes in and go, I don't know who my parents are?" And I'm going to say, and it happened about 4 or 5 years after that. And my answer back, they said, I don't know who my parents are. And I said, so you didn't grow up around anyone who influenced you? And I said, no, I was adopted and I had these other individuals. They became my parents. I said, great, tell me
It's
about
a
them.
parent. Yeah.
That's your parent. I mean, that's the conversation. And what's interesting is that when we talk about that, it's something it comes from the heart. I've heard, again, all the different stories. I mean, raised by a single mom. Geez, you know what? I want to hear all about that because you just went about 12 steps up. I don't care if you went to Harvard. You were raised by a single mom. You know what that tells me? That tells me you got a work ethic that's going to blow everybody else in this entire office away at the end of the day because you've had to be raised by someone that had to survive. Those are the things that are important to me. And those are the questions you're never going to put on a resume. Nobody puts on their resume raised by a single mom. I was raised by a single mom. I mean, I'm the oldest of 4 kids. And when I look back and I look at all 4 of us and where we are in life and what we have accomplished and done, it wasn't because of education or anything else. It was because we had to all be together. We had to work together as a team. We had to get through things. We had to survive. Those are questions that come out because someone wants to tell you about it. They're also usually proud. It's the same thing as asking someone who goes in that story and you talk about, going to college and they say, well, I worked my way through college and I had to pay for college. Tell me all about it. Now, does that make you any different than the kid who went to, you know, um, Southern Methodist University and on a full scholarship, or their parents paid the whole thing and they never worked it? No, it doesn't necessarily make a difference. But tell me about it because you have passion for what you have done. And that's what I was looking for. And when I was able to hook on that, because that's not a question I would ask somebody I'm sending to a client, right? And it's like, that's not a question. That's just not it. This is for me. This is understanding where's your passion point. If I poked the bear a little bit and now I made you upset because I've asked that, probably not going to work because it's not going to work with my personality. And it's probably not going to work in a small company when you're less than 500 employees running around. We work too close together. You're not going to be able to do that. So if you're not able to open up about things like that culturally for us, I just didn't feel like it was going to be the best thing. What I found out later, though, was that it was probably the best question I could ever ask for what we ended up building at the end of the day and continue to grow. And when we talk to people, because what we hear from it is really interesting. And when someone tells me, both my parents own a business, oof, that's like I get excited when I hear that. Your parents own a business. What type of business? Well, it was a service business. They had to work every week. Wow. So they didn't show up at 8 and leave at 5, is what you're telling me, right? Oh my gosh, no, they'd start work at 6 a.m. and they worked till 10 and they would work weekends. Okay, that's the type of person I want to hire. I want to hire someone who understands that you have to still work hard because that's what this environment's going to be. Now, yes, you could go to the corporate job, you could show up late and leave early. That's fantastic. And I understand that there are people that that's all they want. For us, that wasn't it. Doesn't mean we did that. And I would never ask anybody to do that. I just want to know, do you have it in you? And do you understand what that means?
So I'm curious with the 22 years, almost 22.
Yeah.
If you look back at the different employees that you've had, and if you were to say, these are the ones I hired that already knew the business, and these are the ones I had to train, are you able to say which one was more successful?
That's
Like,
a really,
do you keep stats?
David, you have some really damn good questions, and it's kind of going to make me mad here today because you're really hitting a good knot. So, no, I don't have stats, but what I can tell you is there's not a secret recipe to that. And I have done both. For years, we wouldn't hire if they had worked for an agency before. We said no. And instead, we created, we called it the farm team, and they would be basically brand new. I played baseball, so it was the farm team. And they were brand new. They had absolutely no idea what they were getting into. They had no clue whatsoever. But we knew that if they would do this, and we would tell them that your commitment was like, look, it's going to take you 2 years, but you're going to start at the bottom and you're going to work your way up. But at that point, I was able to say, look at these people over here. I have a whole group of them. This is what they've done, and they've been highly successful. And look where you could be if you want to be there. And so that's what we did. Now, today, we still have a lot of those people with us. One of my top right-hand lead recruiter, same exact model. I think she's been with me like 15 years, something like that. Was in Denver and moved back to the Dallas area, and just been wonderful going up through that same thing. Had no experience in the business. Interesting though, father, entrepreneur, owned his own insurance company. Mom is a teacher. So, I mean, and I know that because I remember asking. But there's never been a real correlation between the two. I've always said that if you were in the business, then why don't you go do it on your own? That's been my thing. And I said, but if you had an opportunity to do it on your own, would you? And that's always been the scary part. Now, we've hired people that have come from the business, but it just always seems that we call it drinking the Kool-Aid, that sometimes when you come from the same industry and you stay in the same thing and you're doing the same thing, you only know the way to do it the same way. And have never been a do it the same way as everybody else. We've always been the opposite. I don't know if I ever shared that with you on our wall in our office. And they now have branded it on different things that I have in my office that sit around me. But I started the company based on, I'm a Seinfeld fan, right? And I actually have a drawing in my office of Seinfeld's apartment they gave me for Christmas one year. One of the sketches that they bought it somewhere from an auction deal. But my idea was to build a company based on doing the George Costanza Theory. It's called the Costanza Theory episode. And this Costanza Theory, if you're not familiar with it, is it's do the exact opposite and you will get results.
Yes.
And the scene is that George is in the cafe
So
and an
funny.
attractive lady's looking at
Yep.
him, and Jerry says, "Hey, if this is true, go over and say hello." And he's like, "She would never talk to me." He goes, "Well, go do it." So he does. He walks over. He says, "Hi, my name is George. I'm 40. I'm balding. I'm unemployed. I live with my parents." And she kicks back the chair and says, "Have a seat." That's how we started the company. I started the company based on don't do it the same way everybody else does. Do it the exact opposite. And that's the same way we did every piece of this thing has been to say, just because everybody else does it that way, we don't have to do it that way. And I can tell you that 22 years later, I still hear people say to us, that's not how it's done, like potential clients when we're
Can you give
talking
me
to
a
them.
couple examples?
Oh, yeah, I
And
got,
and
yeah.
and is it how you lead them and how you manage, or is it how you work with clients, or is it both? And give me an example.
It's a little bit of both. Yeah, it's a little bit of both
Okay.
because I believe that, and it goes back again to like the sales thing. I believe that every great salesperson is a great recruiter. They just don't know it yet. And so what we sell people. And so in order for you to sell, you need to understand how to recruit. And if you don't understand how to recruit, how can you sell? If you're a car salesman, how can you sell a car if you don't understand the car? But our industry is not built like that. And it's changed. Honestly, it's getting better. But it used to be you did sales. That's all you did. You don't recruit. That's all you do. That's all you do all day. That's your entire life. You recruit. All you do is recruit. You're not going to do anything different. You're going to recruit, recruit. And so my whole thing was, and it came because of Shelley really, was to understand in order to go into sales, you need to come through recruiting first and you have to recruit. Then you can move on to that. And so, but what we found out was that all of a sudden I had a ton of recruiters on him, but he's selling. And it's like the chicken and the egg, right? So that's when I had to go out and bring in salespeople who had the industry experience, and then try to, we called it detoxing, to try to get them to learn to do it a different way. Um, and that's always interesting, right? And how do you know that you have the right person? We used to ask them to come in. Again, we've changed in 22 years. You can't do a lot of this stuff anymore. Asking somebody to come in and I'm going to give you a list of phone numbers and make a bunch of phone calls and I want to see how you do. And they are not going to do that today. I'm going to tell you. They're going to be like, no, I'm not interested. 22 years ago, they did. Absolutely. We had a girl come in who was with us for about 9 years, and their first time she did it, she sat down, started making calls. We were kind of all listening, and somebody said, "Well, they're no longer here. You know, they passed away or something." And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, who took their position that I could talk to?" And I thought, "Oof, that is a salesperson right there." You know, I mean, I'm sorry for the loss too. Don't get me wrong, but you know, that's what I want. I want to make them uncomfortable. I want to make them do something. And she ended up being fantastic. But the client side was that we had created different ways to do things. And one of those was our 5-year placement warranty that is unheard of in the industry. And I still to this day will get people that we will engage with, and they will say, "No, you're supposed to do a 90-day refund. That's what your industry does." Okay, well, we don't do that. Well, that doesn't matter. That's what you're supposed to do. I don't know I mean, I'm blown away when I hear that. I'm like, I think to myself, so when you go to like, do you go to McDonald's and you order a cheeseburger and you're like, I don't, I was really looking for, you know, a 12-inch sub. You don't have one because you're a restaurant. You're supposed to. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to me sometimes the way that people think about, you know, industries and change and being different. But it's it's all about that because you got to differentiate.
You give a 5-year say, guarantee, warranty.
Yeah.
How's that work?
It's a five. It all started, and it's interesting because I'm in a chapter in a book called American Entrepreneur. They came to us before COVID and we're like, this is the craziest thing we've ever heard. It all happened when we were buying our daughter her first used car. Uh, and this is going to sound horrible too because it was a Lexus, and nobody does that, but it was used, and I was going to get her a good used car,
It
and
had
so
200,000 miles. It had dents on it. It
it
was, you
did. It was
know,
horrible. We were doing I'm getting
they're just going to
financing on it,
wreck it
right?
anyway. That's what
And
I've learned.
we're sitting in there and we're signing everything, and the lady says, you know, by the way, you get a 5-year warranty. And our daughter looks at me and she goes, "That's kind of like what you do, Dad." And I started laughing. I go, "We would never do that. Absolutely not." And it was like the deer in the headlights look that she gave me. And that just made me think, why wouldn't we? And I went back to the office the next day, started talking with everybody about it. We started discussing it more, started looking at things different. And at the same time, we were growing, we were expanding, and lots of stuff going on. And I said, we're going to Vegas. And so we went to Vegas. We booked a room at Bellagio for the day in a conference room. And we went in there, we locked ourselves in the room. I said, we're not coming out until we figure out how to do this, because we had to differentiate. We were never going to be known as Starbucks or the Tiffany's. It just wasn't going to happen. We weren't going to be Walmart. It was just, our name wasn't going to be there. Frontline was good. We had to differentiate, and we had to come up with something. And I said, I think this is it, but we got to figure out how to make it work. And so the first thing we did was to figure out that the word guarantee was wrong. You can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee I'm going to wake up tomorrow. How can I guarantee that somebody's going to stay somewhere? And 90 days didn't make sense. In the industry, that was the norm. And it was like, that's just ridiculous. Why do people even do this? And we got to come up with something different. And so I said, okay, well, here's what our daughter said, Brittany, it's like 5 years. What do we do? And they said, we need a period that's longer than 90 days to court, like dating, right? We need a courting period. Let's make it 120, and we'll do something with that, like on a credit. I'm like, yes, that sounds good. I said, and then from 120 days to 5 years, if something happens, we'll give them, a replacement, but we'll reduce what the fee is. And I said, okay, but why are we talking about a negative? And I pulled out all these stats and analytics we had, and I said, our people actually get promoted in the first year. Why do we sell on a negative? Why aren't we selling on a positive? We all looked at each other and were like, well, I don't know, because that's the way everybody does it. They sell on a negative. If something goes bad, I'm going to give you this. I said, well, let's flip it around and let's show them that our people get promoted within the first year. And when they do, we'll replace the person, and we're going to do it at a reduced fee. And let me tell you, from there, it just took off. And by the time we were done, we had come up with a way to not only allow our clients to have what I call today options, it was a way to show the value that our people are going to get promoted, and you're going to have to hire another person to do that, replace that person. We're going to give you this extra discount up to 5 years. But here's the interesting part. 22 years later, I have no idea that today we would be living in a world that the average tenure in this country in a job is 1.9 to 2.9 years. And if I had known that, we would have done it a lot sooner. It's just mind-boggling to me that tenure 22 years ago, when people would say, hey, if they haven't been there for at least 10 years, we don't want to talk to them. That was normal. That was normal.
Yeah.
And so now today,
too many jobs on the resume. We don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, they moved around too much. Today, they want that. Today, they want to see people that moved around, because that's how they gain, call it off the record, intellectual property, but that's how they learn about their competition, because they've only been there for a year and a half, 2 years. They go somewhere else and like, so tell us how you did it over here. Walk us through that. What was the new thing that was going on? That's how they share the information. So now they look at it and go, oh, they were there too long, or they don't have this. And then the individual doesn't want to be there that long either, because if they do, they're not learning a new skill. They're not learning what's going on. And I think this year with AI, and last year in particular, has proven that point 100%. People don't want to be stuck in one position like that.
What have you seen besides that? Because we could easily go down that rabbit hole of that. But how about just the hiring process, careers? What have you seen that has changed the most over 20 years? And what surprisingly has stayed the same?
Well, I think again, great questions. And there's a lot that's changed. And so I think the one thing that's a constant in all of this is the resume, right? And what's happened with the resume is the resume has evolved. And so the resume of the past was hard to believe, mailed in. And then we went through
nice paper. Remember that?
Yeah. And let me tell you too,
got to have that expensive paper.
It's always interesting also to open it up and you get the whiff of the smoke smell and be like, yeah, that's going to be a no. I mean, and
The
it was
smoker.
like,
Yep.
yeah, it was crazy, but it was very true. Or it stunk like somebody had sprayed perfume on it. That was another thing that always cracked me up. You'd open it and be like, oh my gosh, what perfume counter were they at? And then it went to the fax machine, then it went to online, and then it went to LinkedIn. And then we kind of have done this reverse. And we went from a one page to a two page also during that time, one page, two page, 10 page, or now, personal websites with dossiers and everything else built on it. But the constant is still there's a piece of paper. But as I said before, a piece of paper only tells a part of something, it doesn't tell the whole story. And that's where I think the evolving part has been LinkedIn, which is really surprising to me. LinkedIn's been around a lot longer than people realize. And now, if you think about it, we're really down to like three tools. You got LinkedIn, you've got Indeed, and you've got nonstop commercials of ZipRecruiter. And that's pretty much it because CareerBuilder and Monster filed bankruptcy this year, and they're pretty much out of the picture.
It's crazy.
Hot Jobs is gone. There was a time when Craigslist was a big deal before it turned into like an adult site or something crazy. But we've been through all of these different pieces. We thought Facebook was going to be the end all, but it's not. But LinkedIn really evolved into something, and today, because of video, it's now not a flat piece of paper. And so you can do your videos, you can put things on there. It's kind of the mix of social media, but it's a business piece. But it's becoming the electronic resume at the end of the day, and tells a bigger story because this year in particular, we've had more clients come to us and say they look great, but they're not active on LinkedIn. And we're like, we didn't
Really?
realize that was a requirement. And they're like, well, we like to really see people that are, active on that. I'm like,
Really?
wow, okay. I mean, checking people's social backgrounds, looking at things, we went through a big period of that. We still have clients that do that. And, I understand you got to look at different things, but the LinkedIn thing in particular, that's been really interesting. And I said this a long time ago that I think it was when Facebook came out, everybody was closing Facebook and companies off, and which probably was good because of viruses. But LinkedIn wasn't shut down. And that was the question. Everybody would ask me, why do you think it is? And I said, I'll tell you why it is. Because the CEO of the company goes on to LinkedIn and he wants to know where other CEOs are at or what they're doing or what's going on in the business side or who's moving around. And until the CEO says shut it down, it's not going to be shut down. It's going to get through the firewalls. And that's what allowed it to grow. And it's still not in its full, it's still in infancy, if you think about it.
Really? Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm still blown away at how few people are on LinkedIn and who will call or I'll have a conversation with. Our bank was recently bought out, and one of the individuals at the bank, I had a conversation with him. I'm like giving him some tips. Super nice guy. I'm like, look, you got a really weird specialty niche thing on LinkedIn. Do this and this, and he said, I don't have a LinkedIn. I'm like,
What?
whoa, are you kidding me? Okay, that's number one you're going to do tonight. That's all you need to really do anymore is get on LinkedIn because that information is your resume. And that's how you network. That's how you do this differently. That's where recruiters are. That's where HR departments are. And so it's evolved so much. But the constant, it's the resume. It's just the
Mhm.
process has changed.
How does someone make themselves exciting in today's world, though?
Yeah. Video.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny too. If you think about like search and the way that you do things, we've all evolved. I mean, think about it. We've evolved from the days of AOL to, Yahoo to Facebook to Google to what I had an encounter with my family and one of my nephews, I guess now it's a wife, but who brought up because I said something about, well, you just go and you Google it, and she's in her late early 20s and said, no, we don't Google, we TikTok. What? You do what? And you don't realize it, but TikTok is used as a search. I didn't realize it till recently that I use YouTube as a search type of an engine to do things. When I need to fix something in the house and I want to make sure that my wife thinks I know what I'm doing, I'm going to go on YouTube first, right? And I'm going to find somebody that's done it and I look at it. And it's the same thing when you're an individual and you're out there looking, you're going to have something that's going to make that excitement because you've put some things on or discussions or you're talking about things, and it's so easy and simple to do that it brings that personality out about an individual that it does make a difference. And it's hard for people to do it, but if you want to and you want to really engage, which by the way, that is a analytic in LinkedIn that every person can see how much engagement you have with people, because that's now all about the algorithms and the way that you show up even in LinkedIn. It's about interaction with people. And when you think about technology and the way that we've changed over 20 something years, we don't engage as much anymore. Even this conversation, I read an article the other day that said podcast doing videos that's going to be the thing of the past. We're going back to just audio. And I
Yeah.
thought, interesting,
Yeah.
considering that YouTube is the second most used search engine out there. But guess where AI is getting most of their information from? YouTube. So I don't know. It's like all of these things change, and you have to adapt as we go through this. But what I have discovered is that it also comes around again. It's like history; it repeats itself. Um, just about the time we thought we were done getting all that spam email and they had it solved, it kind of went away. Guess what? It flipped over and it went to phone calls. And then they thought they had that fixed. And then it flipped over and went to text messaging and then got that fixed. I got a news flash. We're back on the email spam again, by the way. So they figured out how to get themselves back into it. So it proves that
Everything's a cycle.
it does. It does. It comes back around one way or another.
Well, I want to shift gears just because of time and ask you a little bit about your leadership ability, or not ability, but your leadership. And I know one of the things that you've said is that you have a superpower of spotting skills in people. Um, how do you do it? And what usually happens when you point out that hidden skill to someone that doesn't realize it? Especially maybe it's maybe it. So let me caveat this. Maybe it's an employee, but I'm sure you've done it with candidates too,
Yeah.
where you're trying to find what that unique thing is, and you find it.
It's a really high level, difficult scientific thing that I should trademark. And this is something that we do as humans. We suck at it. There's no other way to put it,
There you go.
right? We don't listen. It's that stupid. We don't listen. And if we just spent more time with our mouths shut and we listen to people more, what you learn is just mind-boggling, because people will tell you everything about them. You just got to listen. And when you do and you listen well, you'll pick those pieces out. And when you do a podcast and you ask questions and you're listening and you're going to the next thing and you're asking, it's because you're guiding, and you figure out how to pull those pieces out of someone and how to get them to answer questions they may not want to answer, but they'll open up to it because they're feeling comfortable because you're listening to them. And when we become connected with a person, it's not because of this conversation both ways. It's because someone was a good listener. And it's about looking back at your relationships in life as well. And I can say, as a husband being married, hopefully getting to 32 years in a couple more months,
Sweet.
it wasn't because I was talking all the time, right? And you learn that when you have relationships and you do that, it's about the listening skill. And when you're a recruiter, a great recruiter listens, and they pull that information out and they listen to what the person's talking about, and they fixate on pieces, and they can tell where a person's passionate, and that's where you lead them and you guide them and you pull that out of them and you let them talk about it, because they will tell you everything you want to hear.
That's cool.
And
That's
it's not,
cool.
I wish, I wish it was something so top secret I couldn't tell you.
That was cool. I like that. And speaking of, so a couple quick questions, and we're going to wrap up here. Um, Speaking of listening, I need to circle back to something you said at the very beginning.
Uh-oh.
So, raised by a single mom, 4 boys,
2 boys, 2 girls,
or 4 kids, I should say,
4
four
kids. Yep.
kids.
Yep.
So, what was it that you got from your mom that has been your secret weapon to help you be a successful leader?
Uh, this could get me emotional. Our dad was an attorney, and work ethic was embedded in us. I was the oldest of the four kids. My first job, I was 11 years old at a paper route. 12, and my brother was 2 years younger. At 12, my brother and I bought a paper route from another kid, so we had two paper routes. 13, we had bought another paper route, had three paper routes. We were a caddy, and I lied about my age, and I was washing dishes at a fast food restaurant. My dad was an attorney, but my dad paid his way through NYU collecting bottles and bottle caps during the Depression. So that's the work ethic, right? So my dad walks out on our family, senior in high school. Mom, single mom. We lived in Plano, Texas. You're talking in the 80s. She was working for electronic data systems, very male dominant, very not very friendly from a female standpoint. We all had to figure out how to do things. I had to figure out how to go to college, how to pay. My brother, I had two young sisters. We had to watch my mom in an industry that was just not friendly to women at all. And she worked her rear end off, and she busted her hump nonstop, to the point that when she retired from electronic data systems, who had then been bought out by Hewlett Packard, we have 3 streets in the city of Plano named after our mom. So her first name, her middle name, and her last name, our last name in Plano, which is famous for being the world headquarters for Toyota, Frito-Lay, Dr. Pepper, Pepsi. I mean, all of these companies. And that's my mom's legacy, was that was her idea. And she convinced these groups and the cities and all these others, she was in real estate, to do that. And as a single mom raising 4 kids, she pulled it off in a way that no one else could. And all of us were inspired. Yes, some of it was because of our dad's work ethic, but it was the inspiration of someone who wasn't going to give up in a male-dominated world as a female. And at the same time raise 4 kids who, I'm not going to say we never got in trouble, but we didn't get in a lot of trouble, who have all gone on to be very successful. One's a vice president of a large company, another one is an attorney, another one was a head of an oil company that was sold for, $7 billion. Extremely successful because of what she did. Now, the sad part is that she has Alzheimer's and is in a home, and is still young with a horrible disease at 80 years old, and should be enjoying all of that. But the inspiration wasn't just to us. It's what we saw and what was instilled in all of us, that she gave back to the community, to other women, encouraged them, and just was a powerhouse to us to be there.
Wow, what a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any tears. So
Well, it's been a long
you
day.
made it through.
Yeah,
you made it through.
Yeah.
All right, last question. And you've got kids, and when I was a kid, people would always say, David, how's school? What are you doing? How's baseball or running or whatever? And then that was it. They had 3 questions, and they'd ask the same thing. And in the back of my mind, I was always thinking, why don't they ask me something different? Why don't they ask me this? But they didn't know to ask me. And then my daughter, it was so funny. My daughter, we asked too many. I have 3 kids, but one of my daughters, I asked too many questions. Dad, you're getting nosy. And then we're having another conversation, another point, and so, well, you don't know anything about me. And so it's like, okay, what question should I ask you? So the question I have for you is, what question do you wish people would ask you, but they don't know to ask you?
I think I'm supposed to know this question, and I just went blank.
You can make something up on the fly.
Yeah, I know. I know what my question was supposed to be, and I don't know what it is.
It could be anything. I can cheat. I can
Yeah.
see if I've got some notes from you. Would that help you?
Yeah, because I think I had a good one.
Let me see if I have it.
You might have to edit here.
Hey, I don't edit anything.
That's great.
We just wing it. Let's just wing it, because I don't have it handy. So What is a question? It's okay.
I think maybe it's, why do you do this? Why did you get into it? I mean, that's a question that I've definitely been asked, why don't you get out? I got into it, I will say, because in the beginning, it was a lot of fun because people really appreciated what you did as a recruiter. And today it's not so much. They expect you to do these things. It's changed a lot over the years. There's a lot of value in what we do to help people. Um, Unfortunately, we live in a society where people just expect you to do things. And when you don't, and they don't even pay us for it, they criticize and get upset and everything else. And it's like, I'm not a miracle worker. But I think that's one of the things that's changed the most also in the industry is that, because of technology and everything else, we don't do it the same way. Just like we were talking about mailing it in or via online. But when I first got into it, that was the real reason. And my turning point was my first placement in coming home, and our kids were extremely young, having dinner and telling the story about a guy who I had placed, and he literally was crying on the phone saying, "Thank you, you've saved my family. Our home won't be foreclosed on." And I'm telling the story to my family. And again, our daughter, who is, if you have a daughter, you understand this because they wrap you around your pinky and it just never stops. And she looked at me and just said, "You're the greatest dad ever." And that was it. That was it. That's all I had to hear. And that got me hooked. I was like, I'm never doing anything different.
Well, and actually, I could see the question actually. I know this is not yours,
Yeah.
but based on what you just said, I could see the question you kind of wish people might ask you is, what do you think has happened to appreciation
Yeah.
in
It's,
business?
it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not, and part of that is the business fault, in my opinion, too. I mean, they've taken advantage of people in a lot of different ways. Our industry is horrible about that. I mean, you have people that get into the business and get out. They're in it for
Yeah.
a couple of years and they get out. They're not serious. I mean, this year in particular has been the roughest year we've had in 22 years. The most tough year by far, just because of all the different things that have taken place in our country, the change of technology. It's worse than COVID. Let me put it that way. Just
Wow.
because people are scared to make a change. People want to make a change, but they're scared. And so part of that is you have to build that bond, that trust. It takes time, and we're just not like that as a I guess society you would call it. We want it now, right? We want everything now, 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 now. And people aren't like that. They're also not honest. That's the other part that's horrible. People lie more today than ever. I can't tell you how many stories I have about people being hired that weren't real people, or um, the scammers that are out there doing interviews and the scams they try to pull, and they prey on people that desperately need a job and send them, the bogus check to deposit it. Go buy me gift cards. You're going to buy this equipment. They're going to ship it, and then there's nothing there. Or people that try to scam agencies like us. This used to happen a lot. Doesn't happen as much in the last few months, but they'd want to payroll people through us, and it was a scam. It was just, a big money scam. And it's just hard.
No, things have
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot
That's
different.
another Well, that's for
Yeah.
discussion for another
I
podcast.
got a whole
Well,
book on horrible events, let me tell you.
there you go. There
Yeah.
you go. All right. So, how can people learn more about you or your company?
Well, we would love for them to visit us. Just our website, really difficult, just like everything else I've had to talk about here tonight. It's just the name of our company. So frontlinesourcegroup.com, or go on to LinkedIn, look us up on LinkedIn, follow us on our company page. Everything is posted there. We do blog posts almost every day of new information, positions we're working on, what's taking place in the market to help you out to navigate, because it's not something, if you're looking for a job change, you do all through your life either. So we're there to help out. If you hear me on here and you're listening, please look me up on LinkedIn, connect with me on there, say that you heard me here, make a note of that. I get hundreds of requests to connect with people every day. And I will tell you, I don't request with everybody. So make sure you put that in the notes that you heard it here, and definitely would love to connect, see if we can help you out in some way, whether it's pointing you in the right direction, just giving you some advice. I always have time. It's funny. You think you don't have enough time, but you make time to help people out.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Bill, thank you so much for being on the
You
show.
bet, David.
What a wonderful guest, and I appreciate you. I'll make sure I put all your contact info in the in the show notes at the bottom. Uh, Folks, those of you listening, thank you for listening. This is Inside the Leader's Mind, and I'm David Susan, and we'll see you next time.